You know that unsettling feeling, right? That nagging suspicion that you're not entirely in control of your own thoughts, your own choices? And the most terrifying part? You still feel free. It's like you're not really driving the car of your life. You're just a passenger in a system that was built long before you ever arrived. Every decision you believe you've made, it was already subtly shaped for you. And the most terrifying part, truly, is that you still feel free. Niccolò Machiavelli didn't write to comfort anyone. He simply didn't care about morality or traditional values or popular belief systems. He never asked what life should be. He simply brutally described it as it actually is. And when he did that, they called him a devil. Why? Because he dared to speak one profoundly uncomfortable truth, that control doesn't need violence. It only needs understanding. Understanding how the human mind works, often better than the mind itself. This video isn't here to teach you how to manipulate others. Absolutely not. It's here to protect you from the ones who are already manipulating you, often with smiles, with compliments, with choices you genuinely believe you made on your own. This is the map of the human psyche that Machiavelli left behind, for those brave enough to stay awake in a world built on silent lies. Are you ready? Because what comes next won't be easy to hear. But if you're strong enough, if you can handle the unfiltered truth, it might just change the way you see everything forever. The brutal truth of human nature. They always told you, didn't they? That people are inherently good. That we're rational creatures capable of pure logic, driven by conscience. That deep down everyone means well. But Machiavelli saw something entirely different. He looked beyond the comforting stories, beyond the pretty ideals, and he saw the raw, primal engine that truly drives human behavior. It wasn't reason. It wasn't morality. It was two brutal, undeniable forces, fear and self-interest. He wrote, and this is a chilling line, "Men are so simple and so obedient to their present needs that he who deceives will always find someone willing to be deceived." This wasn't cynicism on his part, it was absolute precision. Because while philosophers argued endlessly about how people should behave, Machiavelli was meticulously mapping out how they actually do. He saw that when push comes to shove, when things get real, people will consistently abandon truth for comfort, principle for survival, and loyalty for opportunity. Not because they are inherently evil, but simply because they are human. Think about it. You want to believe your best friend would stand by you no matter what, especially in a crisis. But when that moment actually comes, they often just disappear. You want to believe the crowd will always support justice and fairness. But as soon as the cost of that support rises, when it impacts their own comfort or safety, they shift. They might protest passionately today, but they'll celebrate the very same power tomorrow if it promises them safety and security. Machiavelli didn't hate this about people. He simply observed it. He accepted the battlefield of human interaction for what it truly was. And in doing so, he saw what so many others, blinded by idealism, completely missed: that morality is often just theater. People don't judge you by your noble intentions. They judge you by your outcomes. They don't care if you were honest, if your honesty made you weak or led to your downfall. They don't care if you meant well, if in the end you lost. In this world, the appearance of goodness often matters far more than actual, genuine goodness. Let that sink in for a moment. The one who looks loyal, who sounds competent, who acts virtuous in public, they are often praised, elevated, and rewarded even if, behind the scenes, they manipulate, lie, or cheat their way to the top. Meanwhile, the one who quietly works, who consistently delivers results but doesn't play the social game, is often forgotten, dismissed, or simply never seen. This isn't fair. It's absolutely not fair. But it is very, very real. And Machiavelli's genius was to build power strategies not against human nature, but completely in harmony with it. He saw people not as they wished to be, but as they were when no one was watching. And this gave him a brutal, almost unfair advantage. He knew that people crave safety more than they crave truth. He knew they follow strength and quickly abandon weakness. He knew they admire the mask, the polished facade, more than the complex, flawed man underneath. So he built systems, not to change people but to predict them, to navigate the human jungle with eyes wide open, fully aware of the lurking dangers and hidden currents. And in doing so, he created a playbook that still works flawlessly 500 years later. Why? Because nothing has changed. Not really. Politicians still sell hope and grand visions while quietly making compromises and deals behind closed doors. Bosses still praise teamwork and collaboration while secretly rewarding the individuals who take all the credit. Lovers still make promises they don't intend to keep because in the moment, it feels easier, more comfortable to lie. If reading this makes you uncomfortable, good. That means you're finally starting to see clearly. You can wish for a better, more honest world, but you will lose in this one repeatedly unless you truly understand what you're up against. Machiavelli was hated precisely because he refused to lie. He told the raw, unfiltered truth that people are not primarily led by principle but by pressure. And the sooner you understand that, the sooner you stop expecting consistency from the inconsistent and unwavering loyalty from the opportunistic, the sooner you can act with clarity and, most importantly, protect yourself. This is the first step, the brutal awakening. The moment you realize the game was never about being good, it was always about being aware. Because those who don't understand human nature get used by it, but those who do, they get to shape it. If this first truth opens something inside you, if it resonates with that part of you that's tired of being naive, then you're already seeing more than most people ever will. We don't make these videos to please you, we make them to wake something ancient, something resilient, in the part of you that can't be manipulated. If this kind of clarity matters to you, hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe to join a growing community that refuses to live blind. And if you want to help us keep creating deep, cinematic breakdowns like this, consider supporting us with a super thanks. Even a small gesture fuels the work that most voices are too afraid to speak because silence is power, but speaking uncomfortable truth? That's rebellion. The power of fear, not hatred. They always tell you, don't they, to lead with love? To earn loyalty through kindness, to be inspiring, to be universally adored. But Machiavelli asked a darker, far more penetrating question. One that cuts through all the pleasant fantasies. Is it better to be loved or to be feared? And his answer was brutally simple, direct, and uncomfortably true. If you cannot be both, it is far safer to be feared than loved. Why? Because love is often a beautiful, fleeting lie. It lasts only when it's easy, only when it costs nothing. It lasts until convenience fades, until something better comes along, or until there's something to lose. Then suddenly that professed love melts away. Promises dissolve. Loyalty vanishes like mist in the morning sun. Machiavelli wrote that men are ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, and covetous. They are quick to shift when danger comes. But fear? Fear endures. Fear is not a fickle emotion, it's an instinct. It doesn't ask for fairness. It doesn't need reasons or justifications. It simply obeys the primal drive for self-preservation. That's why the leader who rules primarily with love risks losing control the moment that affection fades or is diverted. But the one who commands fear, not hatred but fear, is obeyed even in silence. Let's be crystal clear about this. This isn't about cruelty. It's not about violence or terrorizing people. Machiavelli made a crucial, nuanced distinction. He said, a wise ruler must never become hated. Why? Because hatred inspires rebellion. Hatred breeds resentment and eventually, a desperate, dangerous backlash. But fear, when used carefully and consistently, creates control without resistance. The goal isn't terror. The goal is predictable consequence. Fear works best not when it's loud, dramatic, or erratic, but when it's consistent. Think about the fear of losing a desirable position, the fear of missing out on an opportunity, the fear of subtle punishment, like being subtly sidelined or experiencing kit exile, a brilliant term for being quietly excluded or pushed aside, or simply being ignored and forgotten. This kind of fear doesn't require shouting or overt threats. It only needs a quiet, steady presence. Consider this: the boss who tries to be friendly with everyone, who avoids conflict at all costs, often struggles to maintain genuine respect and control over their team. But the one who sets clear boundaries, who demonstrates that actions have consequences, that certain behaviors are simply not tolerated, they are obeyed. Maybe not universally loved, but always respected. The partner who gives endlessly, hoping to be cherished and appreciated, often ends up being used or taken for granted. But the one who has the quiet strength to walk away, who can hold their ground and demonstrate their self-worth, they are the ones who ultimately set the terms of the relationship. Why? Because power lies not in endless giving, but in being needed. The more someone truly needs your approval, your support, your connection, the more subtle influence and control you hold. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He knew that real power is silent. It doesn't beg to be loved. It doesn't chase affection or seek validation. Instead, it builds structures where being in your favor is the path of least resistance, and stepping out of line has a clear, predictable price. That's why, in every group, in every organization, in every social circle, those who are feared a little, respected deeply, and understood rarely hold the real influence. They don't need to dominate with brute force. They just need to be unignorable. Think about your own life, your job, your family, your friendships. Who truly has the power? Is it the one who constantly fears being abandoned, or the one who could quietly walk away without losing a single night's sleep? That is the hidden architecture of influence. To create an environment where others subtly adjust to you, because not adjusting comes at a cost they aren't willing to pay. This isn't cruelty, it's simply design. It's structure. And the key always is balance. You want to invoke fear without inspiring hatred, respect without resentment. Give just enough love, just enough warmth to remain human, but never so much that it makes you disposable or easily taken for granted. Build a presence so that when you speak, they genuinely listen. When you're silent, they quietly worry. And when you decide to walk away, they truly feel the loss. That is the kind of fear that Machiavelli admired. It's not the fear of harm. It's the fear of absence. The fear of losing access to someone they secretly depend on, someone who holds a subtle but undeniable power. So ask yourself this: in your own life, in your relationships, in your professional sphere, are you the one who fears being abandoned, or the one who is quietly, consistently feared for your absence? Are you leading with clarity and consequence, or begging with kindness and hoping for reciprocity? Because love may feel good, it may feel warm and fuzzy, but fear, that quiet, consistent fear gets results. The power of perception. Everyone sees what you appear to be, very few experience who you really are. That single sentence, written centuries ago, might just explain why some people rise effortlessly while objectively better, more capable people fall by the wayside. Because in this world, reality doesn't rule, perception does. You could be the most capable, the most honest, the most loyal person in the room. But if you don't look like it, if you don't sound like it, if others don't feel it, you will be ignored. And someone far less worthy, someone who understands this fundamental truth, will quietly take your place. This isn't fair. Machiavelli didn't care about fair. He cared about what works. He understood that people don't primarily follow truth. They follow stories, images, masks. They judge you by what they can see, by the surface-level presentation, and most of the time they simply don't look that deep. So he gave this advice not to liars but to realists. A ruler should appear merciful, faithful, humane, religious, and upright. Be seen with the right people. Say the right things. But, and this is the critical caveat, when the moment calls for it, be ready to change. Because if you stay rigidly virtuous and unchanging in a world that's constantly shifting, you will be broken. This isn't hypocrisy, it's strategy. The world does not reward purity, it rewards perception. Let me show you how this plays out even today. A politician gives one powerfully televised speech at a disaster site, a moment of profound empathy. He immediately becomes the symbol of compassion, the leader who cares. Meanwhile, another politician works tirelessly behind the scenes for months, securing resources, implementing policies, actually solving the problem, but gets no public praise. Why? Because the camera didn't see it. The public didn't feel it. The employee who brags loudly and publicly about small wins is often promoted, while the quiet, analytical genius who delivers massive foundational results often gets left behind. Why? Because most people don't see substance. They see the spotlight, the performance. So Machiavelli taught the art of symbolic action. One visible moment, one dramatic, well-timed gesture, that can often outweigh years of silent, consistent effort. If you want power, you must learn not just to be effective, but to be seen as effective. And beyond that, you must learn how to control what is seen. That means controlling the flow of information. Not necessarily by outright lying, but by meticulously shaping the truth. Tell the truth that benefits you. Delay the truth that doesn't. Reveal things when people are distracted by bigger headlines. Deliver bad news wrapped in sweet, palatable narratives. The modern world calls this public relations or media management. Machiavelli called it survival. And he went even further. He advised rulers to personally take credit for all good things and assign unpleasant or unpopular tasks to others. That way, you remain the benevolent face of progress and success, while others become the unfortunate face of punishment or difficult decisions. He wasn't being cruel, he was being brutally efficient. Because power isn't just about what you do, it's about your image. You must look like the source of blessing, the bringer of good things, and carefully avoid becoming the target of blame or resentment. You must become the story people want to believe, the image they instinctively trust. Because in the end, the crowd doesn't follow what's objectively real, it follows what feels real. If you truly understand this, you can walk into any room, any situation, and begin to subtly bend its energy in your favor. You can lose a battle but decisively win the narrative. You can be outnumbered but never outpositioned. And slowly, subtly, the world starts to see you as inevitable, as necessary, as the only logical choice. That, my friends, is the profound power of perception. So ask yourself, how do people truly see you? What version of you do they believe is real? Is that perception working for you or against you? Because reality can be ignored. Perception moves armies, wins elections, and shapes legacies. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to look like it long enough to build what truly matters. And when the full truth eventually comes out, if you've built enough power and influence, they often won't care. They'll still follow because the story, the carefully constructed image, is often stronger than the bare facts. If this feels uncomfortably true, it should. But that discomfort is a sign you're paying attention. Let us know in the comments which part of this insight shook you the most. Machiavelli didn't just write philosophy, he wrote strategy. Not vague ideas, but real tools, tactics, and actions you can take in a world ruled by perception and shaped by fear. He called it the art of statecraft, but what he built was something far deeper. A manual for power in any system, in any era, in any room. The Machiavellian toolbox. Let's open the toolbox. These aren't vague ideas. They are specific, actionable tools you can use. Tool 1. Strategic generosity. Machiavelli wrote, "Men forget the death of their father sooner than the loss of their inheritance." Think about that for a second. Benefits and acts of kindness are quickly forgotten, but money or anything of material value leaves a scar, especially when it's theirs or when it could have been theirs. Machiavelli understood that people don't primarily remember kindness. They remember value. So when you give, make it matter. Make it public. Make sure they know exactly who gave it to them. Give gifts that bind. Offer favors that echo, creating a lingering sense of obligation. Provide resources that subtly create dependence. Anonymous giving builds goodwill, yes, and that's fine for charity. But strategic giving builds power. That's why great leaders, whether in business or politics, make sure every raise, every promotion, every significant opportunity has their name visibly attached to it. So, when the moment comes and loyalty is truly tested, the memory of that generosity buys silence, buys support, buys obedience. It's not manipulation if it's transparent, it's just understanding human nature. Tool 2. Calculated mercy. Machiavelli offered a chilling but deeply practical warning: never wound an enemy unless you're ready to finish the job. Why? Because half measures create resentment. A man who's slightly injured will recover, and he will absolutely remember who hurt him. He'll bide his time, he'll plot his revenge. But a man who's fully defeated, completely removed from the board, can't strike back. Or if you've chosen to spare him completely, he might be too grateful to even try. So you have two options: completely win them over, making them an ally, or completely remove them from the board. There is no safe middle ground. That's why wise rulers either fully forgive and integrate an opponent, or fully remove them. Because a half-kept enemy is a ticking clock, a source of constant potential danger. Tool 3. The manufactured crisis. Never waste a crisis. This is a timeless principle. In times of crisis, real or even conveniently manufactured, people surrender control. They beg for solutions. They willingly accept restrictions they would have fiercely rejected just yesterday. Machiavelli saw this long before modern politics perfected it. A crisis, whether genuine or a perception carefully engineered, opens a gate. And if you've prepared, if you have your solutions ready, you can walk through that gate unchallenged, implementing changes that would otherwise face massive resistance. Introduce a significant change during a time of peace, and you'll face an uphill battle. Introduce it during a panic, during a perceived emergency, and you'll often be praised for taking decisive action. That's the trick. You don't always need to create the fear, you just need to expertly use it. Tool 4. Strategic alliance, the hub. He wrote, "The prince should be the one from whom all favors flow. If they want anything, they must come through you." This gives you leverage, control, and invaluable information. In practice, this means becoming the bridge, the connector, the access point. In companies, make sure critical resources or key information routes through you. In social circles, be the one who introduces people to opportunities, to important contacts, to new connections. Not the one constantly begging for a connection yourself. Because when people need you for access, they tolerate your terms. They adjust to your schedule. They pay closer attention to your opinions. You become indispensable. Tool 5. Predictive consistency. Nothing builds power, especially in the long term, like being right again and again. Make bold predictions, then make them come true. Even if it costs you. Even if it hurts in the short term. Why? Because people don't follow perfection. They follow certainty. They crave the illusion of inevitability. If you build a consistent record of promises made and promises kept, you create the sense that your leadership isn't just a choice, it's a fact. It's almost a force of nature. And most people will follow a fact before they follow a dream. Your past successes become a self-fulfilling prophecy for future influence. These 5 tools, strategic generosity, calculated mercy, the manufactured crisis, strategic alliance, and predictive consistency, are still used every single day in boardrooms, in governments, in personal relationships. Not because they are inherently ethical, but because they simply work. The world hasn't changed, just the masks we wear. And those who know these tools walk ahead, while the rest wonder why they keep falling behind. The modern Machiavellian. Machiavelli wrote for princes, men who ruled with armies, with walls, with fear carved into stone. But today's rulers wear different clothes. They don't sit on literal thrones. They sit behind screens, behind desks, behind warm smiles. And their weapons are not swords. They are ideas, narratives, and choices that don't feel like choices. Because the modern world no longer overtly fears tyranny, it fears control. And that, ironically, is exactly why it's so easy to be controlled. You think you're free, but freedom has become the very illusion that keeps you in line. Machiavelli's principles didn't die with the Renaissance. They evolved. They adapted. They polished their image until they became invisible. Let's take a closer look. The modern Machiavellian doesn't shout, he whispers. He doesn't demand, he designs. He creates environments where you choose what he wanted all along, and then you thank him for the opportunity. In the office, he doesn't hoard power outright. He shares it, but only the parts that shape perception, that steer decisions. He reveals just enough truth to seem transparent, but never enough to lose control. He doesn't lie, he filters. He delays. He wraps bitter pills in sweet packaging. That's not deception, that's architecture. And it works. He doesn't attack rivals directly. Instead, he asks innocent-sounding questions. Do you really think she's ready for that role? I heard the numbers weren't great last quarter. Have you seen the report on that project? He lets the doubt do the damage while his hands remain conspicuously clean. In relationships, he doesn't control through overt fear. He controls through favors, through a subtle sense of obligation. I'm so glad I introduced you to that opportunity. I've always supported you, haven't I? The unspoken message is clear without ever needing to be spoken. You owe me. You depend on me. And you'd better remember that. This is soft power wrapped in velvet, but the grip is real. Because now you don't just follow out of fear. You follow to preserve the story that you made the choice freely. And that is the final trick, meta-manipulation. Not just influencing your decision, but influencing how you feel about the decision. You don't feel controlled, you feel smart, empowered, independent. And that is the most effective control of all, because no one resists what they believe they chose for themselves. This is why modern leaders present pre-made decisions as group discussions. Why marketers give you 3 options but only one real, viable choice. Why partners offer flexibility, while silently narrowing your world until their preferences become your own. The game is no longer about brute force, it's about framing. Not about shouting, but about shaping the silence, shaping the context. You think you're above it. You think you're too smart, too aware. But you're not. We are all vulnerable to it because these tactics don't speak to your rational mind, they speak directly to your instincts, to your fear of missing out, to your hunger for belonging, to your inherent desire to feel in control even when you aren't. But Machiavelli would say, you can't win a game you don't even know you're playing. So what's the defense? Awareness, not paranoia, not cynicism, just pure, unadulterated clarity. Seeing the levers, hearing the silences, noticing the hands that shape the stage. Because once you see it, you can truly choose. Maybe you still play along. Maybe you push back. But now you're awake. And that is the one thing a true Machiavellian fears. A mind that sees through the mask, a person who can't be steered without knowing it. So ask yourself, are you living by your will or by design? Are your decisions truly yours? Or were they softly planted by someone who understands this game better than you do? Because control in the modern world doesn't come wrapped in chains, it comes wrapped in freedom. They give you options, 3 versions, 5 flavors, 9 paths, and you feel empowered. You feel free. But Machiavelli would ask one thing: who built the menu? Because in the modern world, control no longer looks like a cage, it looks like a catalog. You don't fight the system if you believe you're choosing from its offerings. You don't resist if the prison feels like a playground. And that is the brilliance of how control now works. They don't need to limit your freedom. They just need to frame your options. A corporate boss offers 2 promotions. Both require more hours, more sacrifice, more commitment. But you choose one and you feel like you won, like you made a smart career move. A politician offers 3 policies. None truly solve the root issue, but you vote and you feel like your voice mattered. A partner gives you space, but carefully keeps you emotionally dependent. You feel independent, but you're still entirely inside their orbit. This is the architecture of illusion, the art of controlled autonomy. Machiavelli never said people were stupid. He said people are predictable, especially when they feel like they're in control. He would have understood today's world perfectly. The apps that make you feel connected but constantly monitor your thoughts. The jobs that sell purpose but drain your energy. The content that feels rebellious but keeps you docile and clicking. Everywhere you are given choices, but the outcome never truly leaves the system. It's like being in a casino. You can choose the table, you can choose the game, but the house always wins. Why? Because they designed the floor. They trained the dealers. They wrote the rules. And while you're busy celebrating your small win, they're counting the bigger one. Machiavelli would smile because he knew you don't need to force a man who thinks he's free. You just need to give him a script he thinks he wrote himself. This is the new face of power. Subtle, polished, unquestioned. And the terrifying part is this: you don't see it because it feels like freedom. They let you choose what to wear, what to watch, what to say, as long as none of it truly threatens their fundamental structure. They let you scream in protest as long as the system itself stays untouched. They let you vote, but not on the core questions that truly matter. They let you debate, but only within the cage of approved narratives. It's not control through violence. It's control through permission. You're free to express yourself, but the platform owns the reach. You're free to work, but the system owns the time. You're free to exist as long as you don't disrupt the algorithm. This is the brilliance of modern power. It doesn't tell you what to do, it just tells you what you're allowed to want. So, what do you do with this knowledge? You stop worshiping the menu. You start asking, who built it? You look behind every choice and ask, who benefits no matter what I pick? And then you reclaim your role as the architect, not just the actor. Because if you don't, someone else will keep writing the script of your life and calling it opportunity. They'll keep giving you the illusion of a voice while muting the actual signal. They'll let you run in circles while they stay still and watch as you exhaust yourself in a system designed to keep you spinning. Freedom isn't the number of options you have. It's your ability to rewrite the rules, or step outside the game entirely. And until you learn to step outside the choices they give you, you will always be controlled by the ones you never truly saw. That is the quiet brilliance of modern manipulation. And it's why Machiavelli still matters more than ever. The power of silence and controlled exposure. In a world addicted to noise, to constant updates, to opinions fired like bullets, the most powerful voice is often the one that says nothing. Silence is not weakness, it is strategy. Machiavelli knew this. He understood that words commit you, trap you, expose you. But silence keeps you fluid, unreadable, and dangerous. He never said, speak to be heard. He said, observe before acting. Let others reveal themselves. Let them burn their position before you even choose yours. Strategic silence makes people fill in the gaps. It makes them guess your motives. It makes them doubt their own positions. And in that uncertainty you gain immense ground. The one who speaks first often gives away their intent, their desires, their leverage. The one who overshares invites exposure, creating vulnerabilities. But the one who watches, waits, and calculates can strike with devastating precision. This is not passive. This is active control. Think about negotiations. The first person to speak usually loses leverage. Why? Because silence creates discomfort, and discomfort makes people speak more than they should, revealing their hand. The Machiavellian doesn't fill silence to escape awkwardness. He uses awkwardness to shape power. He lets others project, assume, expose, and then he moves. Strategic silence is a signal. It says, I'm not desperate. I don't need your approval. I control the tempo of this conversation. It's not just what you say, it's what you refuse to say and how long you're willing to wait. In leadership, the silent figure often becomes a myth, a legend. They become what others imagine, not just what they observe. And imagination is often more powerful than reality because when people don't know your plan, they assume the worst or the best. But either way, you control the narrative without uttering a single word. This is why real power often moves quietly. A silent reshuffle, a delayed response, an unreadable gaze. It unsettles. It destabilizes. It creates space for leverage. Most people speak to reduce anxiety, to be liked, to feel seen. But the Machiavellian speaks only to move pieces on the board. He doesn't reveal himself through noise, he reveals himself through outcome. This isn't just theory. Look at modern leaders, whether in business or politics. The ones who speak rarely are listened to more intently. The ones who hold back are taken more seriously. Mystery magnifies authority. Ambiguity creates gravity. And when they finally do speak, the silence before their words gives those words immense weight. You don't need to be loud to be heard. You need to be measured. You don't need to be everywhere. You need to be intentional. And sometimes the most devastating move is no move at all. Let the noise consume them. Let them panic. Let them beg for a response. And when the moment is right, respond with one concise sentence that ends the entire debate. Because when silence finally breaks, it can shatter everything. So ask yourself, do you speak to prove something or to position yourself? Do you respond because you feel you must or because it's truly effective? Can you handle being misunderstood without rushing to explain yourself? Can you sit in the discomfort of silence longer than others can bear it? Because if you can, you hold a power most will never understand. Silence is not emptiness, it's design. And those who master it don't chase attention, they make attention chase them. Controlled exposure, the mask. Power needs visibility, but it also needs mystery. You cannot influence a room if no one knows you're in it. But the moment they know too much, you become predictable, reachable, vulnerable. Machiavelli understood this paradox perfectly. He knew that power must be present but never completely transparent. A prince must be seen but never fully revealed. Because total exposure kills the mystique. People respect what they do not fully understand. They obey what they cannot fully grasp. And when they believe there's always something you're holding back, something more to you, they move more carefully around you. They speak more politely. And they never quite know where they truly stand with you. That, right there, is immense leverage. Let's be clear, this isn't about hiding negative truths. It's about curation. It's about revealing just enough to shape perception, but never so much that they can use it against you. You become the architect of your own myth. Leave pieces out. Let them fill in the blanks. Because when people build the image of you themselves, when they feel they discovered you instead of you merely showing them, they protect that image. They defend it. And they trust it more deeply. Controlled exposure is why the quiet, reserved leader often holds more weight than the loud, verbose one. It's why the artist who rarely explains their work is often considered a genius, while the one who over-explains every brushstroke is eventually ignored. Mystery is often mistaken for depth, scarcity for value. You don't have to be inherently complex. You just have to be careful about what you reveal and when you reveal it. Timing is everything. Tell your story when it helps your strategy. Share a weakness only when it disarms a potential threat, or when it creates a connection that benefits you. Reveal your plans only after you've already moved, after the critical steps are irreversible. Never give them the full map, just enough to follow the path you've already drawn. In modern life, this applies everywhere. The colleague who shares every detail of their weekend, every personal struggle, often becomes forgettable, quickly seen as transparent. But the one who shares just enough to intrigue, to impress, to invite curiosity, gets remembered. The partner who reveals every single thought and emotion becomes predictable, sometimes even suffocating. But the one who maintains a quiet tension, a sense of something more beneath the surface, often keeps attraction alive and vibrant. It's not deception, it's emotional design. You are not required to hand people your blueprint, only the version that serves your position, your goals. Even kings wore masks, not to lie but to rule effectively. Because control isn't about being seen everywhere, it's about being seen with intention. Ask yourself, what do people think they know about you? Who gave them that image? Was it you, carefully, intentionally? Or did you leave the pieces for them to arrange, to interpret based on their own biases? Because when you learn to control your exposure, you control the room long before you speak. And more importantly, you protect what matters most to you. Because what they don't see, they can't attack. What they don't expect, they can't stop. Your strength is not just in what you reveal, it's in what you choose not to. In this age of oversharing, privacy becomes power. In the flood of voices, the quiet one is remembered. And when everyone wants desperately to be understood, being deliberately misunderstood or simply unreadable becomes a powerful strategy. A shield, a weapon, a test. So choose your moments, choose your angles. Let them wonder who you really are. And when the time comes, reveal just enough to move the board without ever showing your full hand. That is controlled exposure. Not hiding but choosing. Not silence but orchestration. And those who master it don't just influence people. They haunt them in the most powerful sense. The final test. Will you be a monster? You've seen the map. You've heard the rules. You now understand the intricate mechanics of power, perception, and control. But now comes the question that haunts anyone who dares to walk this path, anyone who truly grasps these truths. If you use these tactics, if you play this game, will you become the very thing you swore to fight? Will learning to control make you lose yourself? Machiavelli never answered this directly, because he knew the answer wasn't universal. It was profoundly personal. He wrote, "A man who always acts good will come to ruin among the many who are not good." It wasn't a call to evil. It was a stark, unflinching call to awareness, to see the world as it truly is, not as you wish it were. To stop hoping that morality alone will protect you, because it won't. People will lie, use you, betray you, rewrite your story if you let them. So what do? You face the mirror. Not the one on the wall, but the one deep inside. And you ask, who am I when no one is watching? What do I truly want when no one's around to applaud? Because tactics don't define your soul. Intent does. You can use Machiavellian wisdom to build or to destroy, to protect or to exploit. The system is neutral, you are not. You can fake virtue to rise in power, or you can use your insight to expose the fakers. You can control perception to manipulate, or to lead with conviction, to deceive for personal gain, or to teach uncomfortable truths that awaken others. The same silence that a tyrant uses to frighten, a wise man can use to listen deeply. The same strategic generosity used to trap others can be used to genuinely lift them up. It is not the tactic that poisons, it is the motive. And here, precisely here, is where your soul is tested. Because once you see the strings, once you understand how the puppet show works, you will be tempted to pull them. Not because you want to be evil, but because you can. And if you're not careful, if you don't stay vigilant, you will become the very monster you were trying to protect yourself from. So, how do you walk this incredibly fine line? You stay conscious. You stay awake. You remember that power is a tool, not a purpose. That strategy should always serve something greater than mere survival. And that true, lasting leadership is not about being feared or loved in a superficial way, but about being fundamentally trusted by those who can still think for themselves, who can still see with clarity. Machiavelli showed us the blueprint. But he never told us what kind of building to construct. That choice is and always will be uniquely ours. We live in a world where naivety is punished, but cynicism is poison. The true path is neither blind belief nor ruthless manipulation. The path is conscious power, rooted in clarity, driven by purpose and guided by profound restraint. Not because you fear the consequence, but because you've earned the strength to hold the sword and choose not to swing it unnecessarily. The Machiavellian who sees clearly and still chooses restraint is more powerful, more truly sovereign, than the one who simply dominates. Because control without wisdom is chaos, and strategy without soul is just empty, rotting ambition. You don't have to play this game like the others. You just have to understand it so they can't play it against you. Then you choose every day who you become. Not because you must, but because you can. That is the final, ultimate form of power. To use darkness as a tool but never, ever as a home. To know the rules but never let them rewrite your heart. And when they ask if you are Machiavellian, you answer. Not blindly, not ruthlessly, but strategically. With eyes wide open and a purpose that is truly worth the price. So here we are, at the edge, looking back at everything you were never supposed to see. The hidden rules, the silent weapons, the game behind the game. You don't get to unlearn it. You don't get to pretend anymore. You've seen too much, and now you carry a profound choice. You can shut this down, tell yourself it's too dark, too harsh, too calculated. Or you can sit with it. Not because it comforts you, but because it arms you. This clarity is a gift and a burden. The choice is yours.